Grand grinding people. Already got Slim Life already got you up in here. How you doing? Getting ready for Slim, what do you do for a living? What is your profession? Like everybody, we should tell each other what our professions are. Mine is struggle streamer. My profession is professional YouTube struggle streamer, as someone so delicately put it yesterday or the other day when I was having technological issues. Morning, Miss Lily. Morning, this 504 girl. Y'all, today we're going to be talking about the United States government that appears it wants to shut down. Anybody who's not in the States, I would like to get your opinion on. Well, I know countries across the world have their problems. I've seen countries whose prime ministers step down suddenly and they have a no confidence vote and so on and so forth. So I know that this craziness might be United States style, but I know countries across the world have their own political craziness that they go through all the time. Tasha Sue, morning. Diva, LTL, morning, Soul. So what we're going to do is I would like to look into this and just try to get a sense for what the heck is going on here in the States, what we have gotten ourselves into, and maybe start to prognosticate a bit as to whether or not this is what we will be seeing going forward. Yes, grand grinding, Aretha. Yes, we are in the lion's den of political talk. We have Elon Musk in the house. We have Donald Trump in the house. We have the Democrats versus the Republicans. So I think today we are full on trigger alert, trigger warning. I think we're going in that direction, people. I think we're in that. So we'll see if we're mature enough to have the conversation. Miss Lily, I know you and I gonna butt some heads today. So warning, it's all love though. It's all love. It's all love. So don't get mad at me because I don't know what my opinion will be because frankly, I don't have all the information. That's why I wanted the community to come together to see what this is all about. I don't have all the information, but I know I'm going to rub some of y'all the wrong way, whatever my opinion shall be. So let's go ahead. Let's start off with Miss Lily. Okay, Miss Lily. See, you're doing it to me. You're making you're pulling out of me a rant. I'm gonna save my rant for later. Okay. Let's get started. We got false flag. Yeah, we have a whole lot going on. Not that there is a false flag, but people are on edge right now. People are really on edge. And I live in something of a bubble, y'all. Y'all know I'm going to express myself, just the way it is. But I live in something of a bubble. Typically, all of this stuff, the anxiety, it generally doesn't affect me. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing ever happens in my family. I'm not saying nobody ever gets sick. People die. We have funerals. So I'm not saying things don't happen. I'm saying that the anxiety about the country and the course of the country and so on and so forth doesn't usually hit me like it hits everybody else. It doesn't hit my family. So far, my kids haven't come home and asked me any kind of crazy stuff. My wife isn't even from this country. So frankly, she's looking at Dominican Republic stuff. She gets U.S. news, but very little trickle. So my wife never comes and says, baby, I'm worried. She doesn't even freaking know. I mean, she knows a little, but she doesn't keep up with stuff. She more concerned with stuff from her birth country. You know what I mean? So that is a huge help. Husbands, you know, and probably wives too. You want a huge help? Marry somebody from another country. Not that there's anything wrong with Americans. I'm talking about from the perspective of them not getting engulfed in U.S. politics and craziness. People from other countries, if they are recently here, chances are, at least in my experience, they don't even care because this is not their thing. You know, even when they citizens, if they bilingual, they speak. They don't care about who's doing what, and that has helped me out a lot because I haven't had to think about it because nobody else in my family's thinking about it. My kids don't know, they don't care. My wife don't care, and I'm on here with y'all. So anyway, with that said, though, y'all, we should care. We should know what's happening, and it looks like the government is on the verge of shutting down. So let's get into this CNN report. Let's go. Let's see what they have to say.
Tonight, House Republicans have failed to pass legislation to keep the federal government running for the millions of Americans who depend on it.
This is Washington. This is how the lawmaking is done. It's a long process. Sometimes it takes a while to reach consensus, but we're going to do the right thing here tonight.
That was House Speaker Mike Johnson, who could not corral enough of his own party members behind what was actually their Plan B legislation after Elon Musk and President-elect Trump sank a bipartisan Plan A yesterday. Today,
all right, y'all, I'm going to be stopping and I'm going to be talking. So y'all already know. If you just want to watch the whole thing with uninterrupted, you know, go find it on CNN or YouTube yourself. I don't like this characterization that Donald Trump sank something. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they are not in the government. They can't sink anything. They can't vote on legislation. All they can do is influence people. So this characterization that Donald Trump sank something. Now, if he had said Donald Trump and Elon Musk worked to sink it, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But you know, and one other thing, y'all, because y'all know how I rant, right? They said the same thing about the immigration bill. Oh, Donald Trump sank the immigration bill, the bipartisan immigration bill. This was something that Kamala Harris was saying while she was running for president. Well, we had an immigration bill, but Donald Trump sank it. And I'm like, Kamala, you are the first woman of color to be in this position to run for president. Excuse me. You are currently in government. You have the second highest position in our government. If anything happens to our 80-something-year-old president, you're the person, okay? Why would you take the weak standpoint, the weak position that we have something as governmental officials that I, as the second most powerful person, that the president as the most powerful person, we both want, all of Congress wants, but Donald Trump, who's not even in government, has more power than we do to stop the will of all of us. See, what she didn't realize was that when she kept saying Donald Trump stopped it, she was making him more powerful than she was. They needed different messaging for that. She was trying to blame him for stopping something that the people wanted, but at the same time, she was putting him up here in power, and she was putting herself down here. She was saying, I wanted this, the president wanted this, the people wanted this, the Congress wanted this, the Senate wanted this, but we couldn't do it because Donald Trump. Okay, so you basically just put Donald Trump's power here, and he's not even in office. So this is what I said, because I was kind of debating this, not debating, but talking about this to somebody I know. I was like, yo, if he's strong enough to stop all y'all, just make him president. You know what I'm saying? If you can't, if he's not even president and he can stop all of y'all, just make him president. I don't even want you. If you can't, if he could just stop if he has the ability to literally just stop what you want to do, he can just stop. Why do I need you? Like, even if I want you, I don't want you if he's out there and he could just stop you. So we did make him. Yeah, that's what I said. That's literally what I said before the election. I'm like, look, she needed to understand her messaging was off. She was making him more powerful. She was subconsciously in the minds of the people. She was calling him Hitler, all of this stuff. I get it, but she was really elevating his status. She was elevating his power level. Hitler is seen as one of the most evil people in the history of the world, but he's also seen as one of the most powerful, and he's way far beyond a Kamala Harris in power. Evil too, but power. So the United States, when we were hearing her talk about him, she was actually elevating him in our minds inadvertently. She really needed to diminish him and elevate herself, but she didn't. Her campaign, I think, didn't get that. So they talked incessantly about him, and they gave him the power to stop. They told us he has the power to stop them with him not even being in the government, with him fighting 3 or 4 different legal challenges, facing jail, facing $400 million, $500 million in fines, facing assassination multiple times. He's going through all this, and he still has the ability to just stick out an arm and stop everything that y'all want to do. Well, you know what? I don't think I want you in office then, because you're not obviously something's going on that y'all can be stopped by a guy who's not in office, who's being assassinated, who's fighting legal challenges, who has all kind of problems, and still he could just stick out his arm and stop everything you want to do. Well, you lost then. You lost. You lost. Now, I'm not saying this is before the election. You're going to lose. Anyway, y'all, let's continue. Y'all know I'll be going off on my rants. Hey, Andrea, what are you doing here? I feel like my parents have come to see me at school now. Y'all, Andrea is a wonderful friend who used to work with me. And I feel like now I'm under the microscope. Now I have to behave myself because my parents are watching me work. Let's play some CNN.
Both men were behind the measure tonight, but again, not enough of their fellow Republicans were as well. So Plan A is dead. Plan B just died. And we just learned from GOP whip Steve Scalise that Plan C they had been looking at looks doubtful as well. The question tonight is, once again, what now? CNN's Manu Raju joins us at the Capitol. So I wonder what you're hearing from lawmakers, particularly since Steve Scalise is now moving away from an option that was at least out there to try to get this passed on a simple majority.
Yeah, look, in fact, the Speaker of the House just addressed reporters moments ago, and I asked him, what is the next plan? And he really didn't have any specifics. He said they were going to regroup. They're going to try to figure out what the next steps were. And he attacked Democrats, even though there were Republicans also who voted against this plan on the House floor, despite the push from Donald Trump. Now, one big reason why there were Republicans who voted and defied Donald Trump was his demand, Trump's demand, to suspend the national debt limit for 2 years. Remember, this is something that Congress has to typically deal with every so often, but it is expected to be dealt with next year. But Donald Trump recognized that this will be a complication next year for his agenda, and now demanding in the 11th hour to inject this into this government funding fight, saying it must be addressed right now. But here's the problem. There are a lot of Republicans who fundamentally oppose raising the national debt limit, dealing with that without any spending cuts whatsoever. So as a result, you saw a revolt on the right, and you have in some of those members I caught up with, Jim, and they expressed why they were concerned with Donald Trump's demands.
All right, y'all. So real quick, that is concerning to me. I'm just taking CNN's word for it. Again, I'm learning about this now. I figured I'll just learn about it on stream with y'all. Taking CNN's word for it, suspend the debt limit for 2 years. That's concerning. So I do not like that idea. Just kind of a suspension, which means we can spend as much as we like. We're trying to get out of debt. So, I would think he would be trying to put a cap on it a cap on the debt limit. So that's definitely concerning. Now, I will tell you what, though, if you invest in stocks, if you invest in crypto, if they were to suspend the debt limit for 2 years, that would help your investments a lot. It would tend to help your investments. So your 401k and all that stuff, that's going to be helped that would have been helped if they would suspend the debt limit, because that means the country will probably spend more, and all of that goes into stocks and crypto and all that stuff. So we see crypto is crashing right now. Y'all might not keep up with the markets, but crypto is crashing, and I think it's due to all of this.
This just stinks. That's why America doesn't trust government, and it's for good dadgum reason.
And you said shut it down.
That's what it takes to bring us to the table.
Any extra supplemental ought to stand on its own merits, not be attached to it, and it ought to have pay-fors. And the debt limit must not be increased without commensurate spending cuts and fiscal reform.
When I ran for office, I said that I would not vote to raise the debt ceiling, and so I've never voted to raise the debt ceiling. I love Donald Trump, but he didn't vote me into office. My district did.
You want to shut it down?
I'm not afraid of a shutdown.
And you're hearing some of those.
All right, so Ms. Lily says, shut down, stand strong. How about, y'all, I'm going to see if I can get a poll. We don't have a whole lot of people in here, but we'll get a little poll going. For all of my U.S. people, we're going to get a poll going. I'm going to play a little bit while I set it up to say who says shut it down and who says do whatever it takes to keep it open. So let me play a little while I set this poll up.
Members saying they are not afraid to go to a government shutdown. So where does this go from here, Jim? It is really uncertain, because the Democrats said they had a deal on the table that Donald Trump essentially forced to collapse. Then now what? No one really knows, which could mean a shutdown by midnight tomorrow night, and a prolonged one at that.
Yeah, and those are Republicans saying they're not afraid of a shutdown, which seems to be them owning that they're bringing about a shutdown, even though you have J.D. Vance and others blaming us on Democrats. Manu Raju, thanks so much. So joining me now is Republican Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska, and he's joining us from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thanks so much for taking the time tonight.
Good evening, Jim.
So you and I, we speak frequently, and you're someone who negotiates with members of the other party. You voted for bipartisan deals on a number of issues, and there was a bipartisan deal yesterday killed by, it seems, Musk and Trump, and now Republicans find themselves in this pickle. Was that the mistake there, killing what was a bipartisan agreement?
Yes, Jim, to answer your question to the point, I think just 2 or 3 things that we could take away from this. We had a reasonably good deal. And by the way, you're never going to get a debt ceiling increased or a CR passed without Democrat support. So we have about 30 Republicans that will not ever support that. And in a tight majority, that means you got to have some Democrat support, which means you got to have a bipartisan bill. So that's the first point. Second point, the bill that we had yesterday had a lot of wins for Republicans, a lot of great things that we've been trying to get for 2 years now. But to get that, we had to give away a couple priorities that the Democrats wanted. And I thought it was a reasonably good compromise. The problem was 1 or 2 people in our conference, instead of just opposing it, I had to go out and demonize and distort provisions in the bill. So for example, our salary is $174,000, but they put out, we're going to get $240,000. That wasn't true. That we were going to prevent any kind of investigations on those who served on the J6 committee. That is not in the bill. I could go on and on. So this stuff was put out by members of our own party. Then you have these social media influencers with 1 million followers. They pick up on it and they throw gasoline on the fire. And that's what we had yesterday. So, and people run away from that. I'm sort of used to it. I've been a target of a lot of these same people. So Elon Musk took some of this false data and put that back out there. And this is my third point. If you're on the same side and you don't like what you're hearing, pick up the telephone and call your friend, your ally. Why tweet and throw your ally under the bus? And I think this could have been easily resolved through a phone call to Speaker Johnson, work their way through it. Today, I voted for this bill today because it would prevent a shutdown. And it was a skinny CR. But I think Plan C is not going to happen because we don't have a majority of Republican votes for this. So Plan D is probably going to be something that we had yesterday with maybe some smaller revisions to it. And we're going to have to work with President Trump on the debt ceiling.
And does that?
All right, y'all. So I think Rufio Rufio said, don't believe the hype. We've seen the same thing a few times. They never shut down. That is not true. I mean, I don't know this in what sense you're saying that, but I know for sure I remember multiple government shutdowns in my life. I just chat GPT'd it, of course, as I do everything. And I quote, the most recent U.S. federal government shutdown occurred from December 22nd, 2018 to January 25th, 2019, lasting 35 days. This was the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. So that was during Donald Trump's previous term. Of course, he hasn't started his next term yet. So there has been a government shutdown, and not that long ago. In fact, this was in December. This was, frankly, almost to the day 4 years ago. And no, excuse me, 6 years ago. It was almost 6 years ago that there was a government shutdown that lasted for over a month. It was the longest shutdown in history. I don't think government shutdown means a complete cessation of all governmental functions. So nobody should think that government shutdown is going to mean like there's literally nobody from the government working. That's not the way it works. But people, in fact, I remember this because when you live in the DC area, you either work in the government or your family, you know people. I mean, it's just impossible not to. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they got back pay. If I'm not mistaken, I think they wound up paying the government workers who didn't go to work during this time and didn't get paid. I mean, this was over a month. So, yes, they have shut down before, and they certainly could shut down again now. So let's continue to watch.
That mean you're going to have to work with Democrats? In other words, do some horse trading with Democrats to get this across the finish line?
Jim, by definition, I believe when you're talking a CR or a debt ceiling, either one, there's enough Republicans who will never vote for it. So you have to work across the aisle. This has been Speaker Johnson's dilemma. He knows he has to have some Democrat support to get these things passed. So that's why he was working across the aisle. And I trust him. He's only going to agree to the Democrat priorities that he can tolerate and live with. And I thought he did a good job. It got demonized and a lot of lies about it. And I think in the end, people will see through. I believe President Trump today, after hearing the facts, actually thought what we had yesterday was a reasonably good bill. He just wants to get the debt ceiling modified. So I think we were able to pull President Trump over today to what we were trying to do.
Well, we'll see. I want to talk about the debt limit because, House Republicans have repeatedly lambasted Democrats for raising the debt limit. Now they want to suspend it for 2 years. And by the way, it's a Democrat suspicion. And listen, some of this is public because Republicans have been quite public about extending the Trump tax cuts. That is because they want to allow an expanded debt ceiling to tax cuts that will add to the deficit. We know that's the CBO estimate. So why should voters believe, including your voters, believe that Republicans actually want to cut spending if they want to suspend the limit for 2 years and then pass a big tax cut?
No, I think there's two things there. One, I do believe in extending the tax cuts because I think it makes our economy competitive. Like 21% tax rate for businesses is what the average is in the world. We don't want to go back to 35% or somewhere higher. So I do think we want to do that. But I believe in the end, we've got to do a debt commission because 72% of our spending is mandatory spending, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Only 28% is discretionary. If you subtracted the entire discretionary budget, all of it, we still have an $800 billion a year deficit. And so we got to get together, Republicans and Democrats, and figure out how we're going to preserve Social Security and Medicare, but yet.
Y'all, this goes to my conversation yesterday. Did y'all just hear that? Without universal health care, without health care, government provided health care for everybody, without that additional expense that would cause on the country, the budget is already 72% mandatory spending, meaning Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and other stuff of that sort. What would happen to that 72% if we said just universal health care for everybody? That 72% would go to 80% or something. Who knows how much it would grow? It would grow. So we're already, due to mandatory spending, in an $800 billion per year budget deficit. if we were to provide universal health care, which would be freaking great, okay? I would love it if we could do that. I would absolutely love it if we could do that. So I am not opposed to it in like conceptually. But the question would be, how could we afford it? The way the system already is, we're already $800 billion down the tubes, down the drain behind every year. So we would have to say, if we wanted to provide universal health care, again, if we could afford it, you know, I would support it if it made financial sense. Like if we can make it work. I do think we're at that point. We're like, yeah, let's get people covered. You know what I'm saying? So let that be clear. But how can we afford it? We certainly can't raise the $800 billion a year deficit to, you know, 1.3 trillion or whatever the new number would be, because then we would be putting the entire system at risk. It's already at risk. Let's not even say we would be putting it at risk. It's already at risk. We will be raising an already extremely high risk level, because y'all, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't think that this can continue much longer. What do we have? 10 years, 20 more years of this? Who knows? It'll be for a while, but this has got to get fixed, y'all. So as this, I guess, congressperson just said, we're already $800 billion in the red every year, even if you don't include the discretionary governmental spending, just the stuff that we have to spend, just the Social Security, just the Medicare, just the Medicaid, probably some other stuff in there. I'm sure there's other stuff, but like the stuff that is promised to the people, I don't know if he's including military in that. That would be an interesting question too. I'm gonna chat GPT that as this guy keeps talking. I wonder if military is in that 72%, because military is definitely one of the top expenditures.
Ahead of this exploding debt that's coming from the mandatory spending, it can only be done in a bipartisan way. If Republicans try to fix it, we'll get killed the next election. If Democrats try to do it by themselves, they'll get killed. We got to do this together. And I think a commission is the only way to do it. And we've done one before, but the difference was we did not have in the previous one that whatever they come up with, you have to put it on the floor for an up or down vote. This commission, you got to have it put on the floor for an up or down vote.
Let me ask you about one more measure here, because Congressman Jared Moskowitz, according to sources from CNN, pointed in a Democratic caucus meeting that restrictions on U.S. investments in China were removed from the original bipartisan version of the bill. We should note, Elon Musk, he's got a lot of investments in China. Removing those restrictions would benefit him. Do you believe that in any way influenced the removal of that provision, which again came from the bipartisan bill?
Well, I surely hope not. And I only heard that about an hour ago for the first time, by the way. So I did hear this from one other Democrat. But I think in the end, let's stay big picture here. We should be very careful about what business we do with China. We should restrict our exports. We should restrict our investments there. They are an adversary. They got 1 million Uyghurs in slave labor camps and doing forced sterilization. What they're doing to Hong Kong is terrible. What they're doing in Tibet's terrible. And they're not a good faith trader with us. I mean, they stack the deck against our trade. And so I think we should play hardball with them. And I think it's a mistake to take those provisions out.
All right, y'all, check this out. This is my ChatGPT information. Do your own research. So ChatGPT puts the mandatory spending somewhere between 60 to 65%, which is quite different from 72%. Okay, that's a big difference. Even if you take the 60 number versus 72, that's a big gap. So let's just take, I don't know, whatever. We'll take 65 as the number. According to ChatGPT, the key components of mandatory spending are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP, and other entitlement programs such as unemployment, SNAP, federal retirement benefits, that sort of thing. Stuff that the government just has to pay. So basically, even if you totally eliminated all other government spending, you're going to be spending this guy, and he would know the number, $800 billion more than you take in every year. You take in X, you're going to spend X plus 800 billion just to get your Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other entitlement programs like unemployment, basically just helping people. I mean, let's just keep it real. This is all just helping people. You're helping seniors, you're helping kids, you're helping people with medical bills, you're helping retire. I wouldn't say helping retirees because that's kind of an earned thing. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily helping people. But all of these other programs are mostly kind of like assistance to people. So you're going $800 billion in debt every year just to do this stuff, not including the other stuff. Now, what's included in the other stuff? Because I wanted to know, was military included in this $800 billion? No. According to my ChatGPT not so deep research, military spending is not even included in the $800 billion per year deficit. So that means if we just stop funding the military, okay, we just left everything we just left our military totally unfunded, we're already $800 billion in debt every year. In a deficit, I should say, not necessarily debt, but in a deficit of $800 billion a year. Then we have to fund the military. So I wonder, well, what about, something like, I know certain people are very concerned right now that they have children with special needs, and there are things called IEPs, and that I suppose flows from the federal government, right? I guess this is help, this is assistance that the federal government gives to states. I think, I'm not an expert on this, but I've heard people who are concerned about IEPs being affected. So I wondered, is that in the mandatory spending or discretionary? GPT says that's discretionary. So that's not even included in the $800 billion deficit we have every year. And I'm like, well, what about Section 8 housing? Because that seems to me to be more like mandatory spending. And according to GPT, even that's discretionary. So, yeah, but it says Section 8 behaves like mandatory program once the recipients are enrolled. So I guess Section 8 is more like it's discretionary, and you could change the program for new participants who want to enroll. But once you have already gotten people enrolled and they're going, that part is kind of like mandatory because you just can't stop funding it. So I guess Section 8 would be kind of like discretionary, as in how big is the program, how many participants, how much do you pay? But once you get participants in, once you start paying, blah, 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 that part will be more like mandatory because you can't just cut those people off. So Section 8 seems like it's it kind of has like both roles. Okay. So y'all, we're looking at $800 billion in a deficit just for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other entitlement programs, maybe like continuing the existing social Section 8 people, not including new people, which you could certainly just cut the program off. Like no new people can enroll, but you still have that mandatory spending for everybody who's already in Section 8. So basically, until those people are gone, move out, get a house, die, whatever, those people would still be under kind of like your mandatory spending. That's probably not going to be a whole lot of money when you compare it to everything else, but it's in there. So y'all, we have a huge problem with the deficit, not including military spending, which is scary. And the Republicans want to have basically a couple of years with no debt limit. I don't like that. I personally don't like it. Like, give me an explanation, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I need some kind of understanding why we need to remove the debt limit for 2 years. I mean, does that just mean you can spend unlimited money? What are we gonna do? You know what I mean?
Okay, we'll see if it ends up in the final version. If there is one, Congressman Don Bacon, we appreciate you joining us this Thursday evening.
Out front tonight, the breaking news. The U.S. closer to a government shutdown at this hour. A House vote moments ago failing. And it comes after Elon Musk blew up a deal that was headed for passage. The world's richest man right now holding the country hostage. It's all him calling the shots, it seems. The government shutdown could be just over 24 hours away. And Capitol Hill is scrambling right now after Trump's self-proclaimed first buddy torpedoed the deal that had been months in the making. Democrats and Republicans had finally agreed to a deal. They were ready to go and go home for the holiday. But then Elon came in, heard about it, and tweeted 92 times about the bill since 4 a.m. yesterday morning. 92 times, tweet after tweet, before Trump ever mentioned the deal. Now, a person who is not elected and who has never been elected has just blown up a bipartisan bill to fund the entire U.S. government. Musk's newfound power is stunning some on Capitol Hill today.
All right. So, again, I take big exception to this characterization. Elon Musk is a citizen just like everybody else. He does have a big reach, but he's exercising his constitutional right, freedom of expression, trying to move the needle just like everybody else. You know what I mean? So I saw a lady yesterday who's raising money for Luigi Mangione, you know, the CEO, the alleged CEO shooter. She's trying to raise money for him. She's an influencer. She's on not only on her social media, but she's also doing interviews with others. She's trying to extend her reach and her influence to advocate for the things that she finds to be important to her and to her people. I don't think we shouldn't have a problem with somebody using their social media or using their influence publicly, particularly when it's public, in order to move the needle. I would say the more public, the more Elon is tweeting and we can see where he's coming from, the more Elon is speaking out and engaging with people in a public fashion, the better, the less I have a problem with it. If it were when it's backroom deals, and I'm not saying he hasn't spoken to anybody privately. I'm sure he's had many private conversations too, but at least we can see that he's out here exerting his influence. Now, might we have a problem with his influence? That's okay. Yeah, if you have a problem that he has so much influence, I don't have a problem with you having a problem with that. But it's, you know, you don't have that kind of influence, so you can't do that. But if you did, you certainly would. So, you know, he's a citizen of the United States. No, he wasn't born here, but he's a U.S. citizen, as far as I know, just like everybody else. The man can do what he wants in order to try to influence the system, just like all of us. We all have the same right to either engage or not engage, and that's what he's doing. So I don't necessarily like what's happening, but I don't dislike the fact that the man is engaging the political process. This is what our rights allow us to do.
He's president and Trump is now vice president. I think that's clear.
All of a sudden, we have an outside influence who believes, I think he is president, and that's President Musk.
Now, that's one view. Another view is that some are branding him a hero, trying to officially give him the power that he hasn't been elected to have. Senator Rand Paul tweets, the Speaker of the House need not be a member of Congress. Nothing would disrupt the swamp more than electing Elon Musk.
Now here, Melissa says Elon is a bit scary. He needs to keep his nose out of U.S. government business. Why? He's a citizen. The citizens need to put their nose directly into U.S. government business. If there's one place you as a citizen where your nose should be after your house, after your home, your community, it should be the U.S. government. Stick your nose all the way in the business. So my man is sticking his nose in U.S. government business, and I'm fine with that. Now let's deal with this. This is a very good comment real quick. Okay, Paul J says, dude, he controls the algorithm. He is gaming the system. I will say this. I don't know that you have evidence of it, but it is a reasonable thing to posit. It's reasonable for you to say so sometimes we just need to say probably or could be, or, you know, or you could even say, Paul, we would have no way to know if he were controlling if he were gaming the system. So if you were to phrase it as, dude, he controls the algorithm, I would say check, facts. When you say he is gaming the system, if you are insinuating he's controlling the algorithm in a particular direction, you would need evidence of that. But if you were to say he controls the algorithm and we have no way to verify, we can't even know. We as the people, we're lost as to whether then I would be on your side, because we don't have any verification. And he very well could be putting his thumb on the scale, as they say. And I do not. Have I used X? Yeah, I'm on X right now. Check it out. This is something I was about to show y'all. The previous bill, this is something Elon tweeted. Okay. So Elon is definitely putting his thumb on the scale. Just him tweeting is putting his thumb on the scale. So this is something I was going to show y'all. This is what Elon tweeted was the size of the previous bill, yesterday's bill. This is something he tweeted yesterday, I think. So this was the bill from 2 days ago, and then the bill that they were voting on yesterday, according to Elon. So do I use X? Matter of fact, this is a good time for me to give myself a plug on X. Let me give y'all my X, y'all. Go follow me, please. So, yeah, I do use X, but I'm not an expert in algorithms to be able to say, hey, I detected with my computer program some kind of anomalies that would only be explicable by, so once you bring that kind of evidence, then we can talk about it. Otherwise, we're just speculating. Now, is it a reasonable thing to think that Elon may be putting his thumb on the scale with the algorithm? I'm not disputing that it's a reasonable thought. I'm just saying we don't have evidence. So we have to posit it as not as something that we know is happening, but something that's reasonable to posit or imagine might be happening. I'm just trying to be more precise. And yeah, I think it's reasonable to say he's probably, or he could be, and we couldn't verify it. The question is, so what? He owns X. He can change the algorithm to his liking. And you know what I'm saying? It's not like he secretly owns X, people. Everybody knows the man owns X. Everybody knows he controls the algorithm. It's public knowledge. If he owned X in secret and acted or faked like he was just another user, and then he was controlling the algorithm behind our back and we didn't know, that would be different. But if we know that the same guy who's pushing for this thing, we're seeing him push for it on a platform where we know he has absolute control and he gets to control what we see, then we have enough information to say, okay, I'm going to assign X amount of credibility to what we're seeing on X. Just like when you go on MSNBC, you assign X amount of credibility to the opinions. Why? Because you know they're biased. Just like when you look at Fox News, you assign X amount of credibility to the opinions. Why? Because you know they're biased. Just like when you're not a Christian and your Christian friend is telling you, well, you know that Jesus, you assign X amount of credibility. Why? Because you know they're biased. Just like when your atheist friend is saying to you, well, you know that you assign X amount of credibility to their, why? Because they're biased. Same thing with Elon Musk and X. We all know he owns it. We know he controls the algorithm. We know he can do what he wants with his platform. So when we engage on his platform, we know to assign X amount of credibility to what we see there. Why? Because the owner is so he's telling us his bias and he's showing us his bias. And if we have any kind of boop, 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 then we just say, okay, I'm not going to go full for this thing because this guy is biased. So while I agree with you, he does control the algorithm. While I certainly would not dispute, I wouldn't dispute that he's gaming the system. Okay. So does every single person anytime you have any kind of control of anything. I try to game the system as much as I can in my house. You know, I try to get them to do what try to get them to think. I'm trying to game y'all right now. I am literally trying to game this system that we got X number of people watching, and I'm trying to get you to think like I think. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get you to think. I'm trying to move you toward me. That's my goal. And if I had the power and the influence and prestige to get 1.5 million of y'all to watch me at one time, I would be moving the needle. But you know what? I'm public about it. I'm public. You know, and the same thing with Elon Musk. He's public about it. You know, he's trying to move the needle. You know, he's trying to move you toward where he is. He's clear about where he is. So once you tell me he's doing something in secret, once you say, oh man, it came out that Elon Musk acted like he was for this, but he was really advocating for that behind closed doors, then we could say, oh, hold up, now that's not right. We can't trust him. But as long as he's putting his opinions out there in public, as long as it's public that he owns Twitter, as long as it's public that the owner of Twitter could be influencing the algorithms, long as it's public that he's saying I'm gonna put my money out there and I'm gonna try to get things done the way I want. Okay. So we know. It's not a bad. I mean, it is a lot. Okay, so now let's talk real quick because y'all know I'll be on my rants. Let's just say, is it bad? Is it bad to have that much power, which it is a lot of power, concentrated in one person? Okay. Let's just say, is it bad to have that much power concentrated in one person? Let's put a pin in that question. I will say, my opinion is, I do see the cause for concern. I do see the cause for concern of having that much power concentrated in one person. So after that long rant, I'm going to now soften the position somewhat and say I do see a cause for concern no matter who the person is, okay? Even the most well-meaning person, because even the most well-meaning person could make a mistake. And if you make a mistake with nuclear level power, even if you're trying to do good, even if you're trying to help, we can all make mistakes. We can all look back and say, dang, I thought that was the right thing, but it wasn't. Well, if you're making that mistake with nuclear level power, then you're gonna blow a lot more people out of the water than if you made a mistake with, regular bomb level power, or bullet level power, or whatever the analogy is going to be. So I do get the idea, like, whoa, that's a lot of concentrated power in one man. Okay, so I get that, but I currently don't see any remedy to it. Okay, so if I still have you in here, Paul J, I would like for you to tell me what you think the remedy should be. What should be the specific remedy? Because a lot of times, y'all, what we get is just a lot of complaints from people. People just complain about stuff. And, oh, I don't like this. Oh, this is terrible. Okay, what is the specific remedy? What is the specific remedy for Elon Musk? Should he be forced to sell X? Who should be able to own X? If he should be forced to sell it, to whom? Should they pass a law that Elon Musk or anybody who owns a major news outlet cannot express their own opinion? Should he be barred as a U.S. citizen from interacting with his government and advocating for the types of changes, laws, regulations, policies that he likes? Should he be somehow excluded? I would like a real. So, Paul J, if you're there, now you've complained. Oh, look at Elon Musk. He has the algorithm. He can. Okay, fine. Correct. He can do all that stuff. What is a specific remedy and a way to achieve it? An example would be the United States Congress should pass a bill saying anybody who has a major news outlet defined as this many subscribers, this many monthly viewers, etc., can no longer participate in the U.S. government in any fashion. They can't speak out about anything. They cannot have any kind of contact with any Congress people. They can't issue a press release. They cannot have any public opinion on any policy from any U.S. or state or local government as long as they have X number of followers, X number of subscribers, X number of monthly views, blah, 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 blah. And if they do, the penalty should be, death by firing squad. Like that would be an actual solution. That would be so y'all notice when I start asking people for real solutions, they come back. Paul, you did say something. He should be vetted. Government officials are not vetted, man. And he's not a government official. Anyway, we're going to continue, y'all. We're going to continue.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, ready to enter the scrum, responding to Paul, quote, "I'd be open to supporting Elon Musk for Speaker of the House." Now, just to give you a sense of how fast this is all unraveling for the current Speaker, Mike Johnson, who spent months working on a spending deal and getting it over the finish line. Just 2 days ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene said this about Johnson when she was asked if she'd support him as Speaker in the next Congress.
I'm not answering your ridiculous question. I've already said publicly that I'm supporting.
Yeah, well, times change, a day passes, and guess what? Elon Musk should be Speaker, says she. Well, Musk does not have time to be Speaker, much less President. He is spending, in fact, an inordinate amount of time on X, or Twitter, as many refer to it. He currently sends dozens of tweets a day. He does not even have time to actually even be CEO. According to one Tesla investor, Ross Gerber, quote, "Having your CEO not working at your company and working at the job of having to fire government employees, as I'm a shareholder, I'm paying someone to not work for my company." Now, look, of course, Musk is not actually firing government employees yet. He's just spending more than 20 hours a day tweeting about doing it and about various other things. The New York Times found 1 week in September that almost a third of Musk's 171 posts were false, misleading, or missing vital context. And now his tweets have caused a deal that took months of negotiating between Democrats and Republicans to implode. And part of what's so bizarre about this last-minute blow-up is that both Musk and Trump spent the day with Speaker Johnson this past weekend at the Army-Navy game. I mean, they were all together. They were all hanging out. None of this came up. No one had any, oh, gosh, hey, we're going to just blow up the government next week. No, they were all friends, lovey-dovey. They could have talked about it. But Musk waited till the final hours to come out with his tweet storm. And blowing up the deal gets a lot of attention. Now, eventually, though, there will be a deal. In some way, shape, or form, there will.
Y'all know one thing that they have not yet postulated is the reason Elon Musk would want to blow up the deal. Now, he might have wanted to blow up the deal. So maybe that's clear from his tweets. I mean, it was clear from his tweets that he wasn't a fan of the deal. But this is the news. So we really don't need them to tell us over and over and over that he did that. We get it. He did it. Why? Give us some rationale as to, but because the deal included this and that would hurt Elon's investment in that. Or the deal, he wanted to get this thing included so it would help his investment in this thing. In other words, the news is just kind of regurgitating what we already know. Maybe they'll get to it. I have not watched this yet. But so far, they're only telling us that Elon tweeted and it affected the deal. We know that. Why? What are some possible explanations as to what his own personal vested interest is? Wildflower says they did say that. Okay, don't just tell me they did say that. Tell me what they said. Okay, they did say that, and they said what? Because I don't remember hearing it.
Will be a deal. Because the truth is, if Musk wanted to create a sound and
what did they
that
say?
Signifies something.
What was the reason?
He could focus on shutting down the waste, not the government. Just imagine if he was tweeting nonstop and talking nonstop about Medicare and Medicaid fraud. The Department of Health and Human Services estimated a combined total of over $100 billion of just improper payments in those programs last year alone. What if Musk used AI?
Come back. What did she just say?
In those programs nonstop about Medicare and Medicaid fraud. The Department of Health and Human Services estimated a combined total of over $100 billion of just improper payments in those programs last year.
$100 billion of Medicare and Medicare erroneous or fraudulent payments last year, y'all. $100 billion. $100 billion.
Year alone. What if Musk used AI and his technology prowess to end that? Manu Raju is on Capitol Hill. And Manu, we are in this unbelievable moment, right? 36 hours ago, 48 hours ago, for sure, nobody saw anything like this on the horizon. Yet here we are. What is the latest you're learning?
Yeah, there were Republicans who defied Donald Trump just moments ago on the House floor as this part of this 11th hour plan. Donald Trump making these demands yesterday, scuttling a bipartisan deal that led to the Republicans trying to put some other proposal across the finish line to make Donald Trump happy, essentially heed to his demands, changes to this proposal. This bill went down. 174 voted for this plan, 235 voted against it. That included 38 Republicans who voted against it. Just 2 Democrats voted for it. Now, one of the big changes that Donald Trump threw in late in this process was to include a suspension of the national debt limit. Remember, if the debt limit is breached, that would lead up to the first ever debt default in American history. But that was going to be punted until sometime next year. They wouldn't have to deal with it until next year. Donald Trump, however, changed his mind. He wanted to deal with it now so he wouldn't have to worry about it when he's president. But Republican conservatives didn't like the plan, and Speaker and the leader on the House Democrats also pushed back.
Y'all taking this for what they're saying. I don't like that either. I don't like just a suspension of the debt limit for 2 years. I don't agree with that. So, I mean, but you know, this is CNN reporting, so I'm just taking it at face value. I don't like that. I do not agree with that. So, yeah, get rid of that.
Are you going to support this plan? Are you going to support this plan?
Musk Johnson proposal is laughable.
So are you going to whip your members against it? Are you going to whip your members against it?
Yo, are they recording with cell phones out this job?
What policy did you?
Oh my gosh.
So the policy that President Musk is advancing is one that is about cutting Medicare and Social Security so that he can give tax breaks to billionaires.
Why did that dude touch his own chest? Like is this guy a billionaire? Why did that guy say to billionaires? Is this dude a billionaire?
Musk is advancing is one that is about cutting Medicare and Social Security so that he can give tax breaks to billionaires.
Y'all, does anybody know who this guy is? And does anybody know if he's a billionaire? Like, I'm really curious about that now. Or is that an affirmation to billionaires like me? I don't need a tax break. Maybe he is a billionaire. Y'all, I think that they're making the mistake of elevating the power of Elon Musk and Donald Trump in the eyes of the public. I think it's it's the same mistake over and over and over and over again. They are saying that these two guys are they're trying to turn the public against them. I get it, but it's never worked. It has never worked with Donald Trump. It's never worked with Elon. It worked somewhat with Trump during the 2020 election. So I'll say it had marginal success, but that was COVID, and that was definitely a once in a lifetime, hopefully, situation where it's hard to really compare to just what we might consider business as usual. I think that they're making a mistake by elevating the power of them. Morning, Avery. We're having an intense debate this morning, as usual. I might call this the Grand Grinding Morning Debate Show. Let's not even call it a talk show. Let's call it a morning debate and rant.
And that last point refers to the fact that Democrats believe that by suspending the national debt limit as part of this plan, it would actually make it easier for Donald Trump next year to pass a lot of his agenda, including his sweeping tax cut plan that Donald Trump wants to move ahead with. Democrats believe that giving away on the issue of the debt limit would take away their leverage at a key point next year to battle Donald Trump while they're in the minority. So where does this all leave everything, Aaron? It's unclear. We are headed into a government shutdown by midnight tomorrow night if there is no agreement. And there is no path to an agreement at the moment because of Donald Trump's demands that have caused a rebellion on the right and that caused Democrats to push back, leading to major questions about what's next. And if there's a shutdown, how long will it last?
All right, y'all, let's see if we can grab something from this morning. All of this was from last night. I'm going to just check real quick and see if we have any kind of updates from this morning. So we'll see. Now, I will say, I wanted to go back to the poll. We had the poll results. Thank y'all for participating. We had a pretty good group of people based on the number of people who are watching. I think, I don't see the poll anymore now, but I think it was 53% to 46 53% saying keep the government open, and 46% saying shut it down. So that's pretty close. That's pretty close. All right. Speaker Mike Johnson, y'all. Let's take this. Might still be from last night, but let's take a look at what this is. The House Speaker. This is the man. This is the man with the plan. By the way, for everybody who doesn't know a little bit of civics lessons, the United States House of Representatives has what's called the power of the purse. Okay. Called the power of the purse. All right. So power of the purse means they control the budget.
Is there going to be a different bill on the floor today?
Are you going to vote today? Yeah, we're expecting votes this morning, so y'all stay tuned. We got a plan.
You've reached a new agreement?
We'll see.
Chaos on Capitol Hill, a critical meeting inside the office of House Speaker Mike Johnson as the clock is ticking towards a government shutdown. Members of the House Freedom Caucus sitting down right now with the Speaker and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, as well as Donald Trump's pick to run the Office of Management and Budget. Vance and Johnson scrambling to get all Republicans on the same page after 38 GOP lawmakers voted against a Trump-backed spending measure last night, joining Democrats, a plan that was drawn up at the 11th hour after pressure from Trump and Elon Musk killed a bipartisan funding bill. Joining us now, CNN's Annie Graer. Annie, what can you tell us about this meeting that is happening right now and what it may signal?
Well, this is about Republicans trying to get on the same page. They desperately want to pass
this is from
something
today.
to keep the government open, but as we saw last night, 38 Republicans bucked their own leadership in voting against the plan to keep the government open because they didn't support the extension of the debt limit. So now, by bringing all the key stakeholders,
Give me a
one
link, Miss
room,
Lely. I'll
the
go to it.
hope is that there will be enough consensus to try and move forward. In fact, we caught up with House Speaker Mike Johnson this morning, who said that he believes that there is a plan and that they are going to be voting later this morning. That has not been officially announced or anything like that, but we are standing outside the meeting just down the hall trying to get new details because right now Republicans are back to square one and it's clear they don't have Democratic support to rely on.
Annie Graer, thank you so much for that late breaking news. Appreciate it. We will be checking back in with you, Kate.
And more of that. Just moments ago, Donald Trump took to social media to put out his latest statement. These are significant because it is clearly having an impact on what Republicans are doing or not doing when it comes to keeping the government funded. Here is what he put on Truth
All right, let's see
Social.
what Trump
read
says.
it for you. We'll read it all together. If there is to be a shutdown of government, let it begin now under the Biden administration, not after January 20th under Trump. This is a Biden problem to solve. But if Republicans can help solve it, they will.
Oh, here we go, y'all. Here we go. Y'all, y'all, tonight, I think midnight is the cutoff. So we're really looking at by this time tomorrow, knowing what the deal is. Now, if I had to predict, I'm going to predict that they will not shut the government down. Okay. So I'm predicting they won't do it. But this would be a convenient time to do it right around Christmas time. A lot of people are off. Dang, would you get your pay while you're on leave? Ooh, now I'm going to predict they won't do it.
That's a double backflip for you. Joining us right now is CNN political commentator Alyssa Farah Griffin and Democratic strategist and consultant Simon Rosenberg. Alyssa, you want to decipher that one? I mean, what do you think of that?
Okay, so just for some historic context, I mean, I worked on Capitol Hill for years. Yes. Pretty much every Christmas, we come up to the 11th hour of a government funding deadline. But this one was avoidable. It was extremely avoidable. The last government shutdown, I was in the White House, 2018. It was 34 days, the longest in history.
Yeah. See, there was a shutdown 2018.
So if the government were to shut down tonight or at Saturday evening, this would, and if it went as long, would spill into after Donald Trump was in office. And so one thing I would say to pump the brakes of the idea of some really long-term shutdown would be Donald Trump wants his transition to continue and he wants his inauguration to continue. He doesn't want national parks shut down when he's being sworn in at the Capitol on January 20th. So the House has to figure out what it's going to do, though. Mike Johnson has very limited flexibility here. Democrats are not inclined to bail Republicans out. But I do think it's interesting that he's basically saying, hey, Joe Biden's still president. Where are you?
Is that indicating also, I mean, Simon, let's jump into the psyche of Donald Trump on social media, because I know you love to do that. Is this also indicating he doesn't think there is a deal to be had? And so this is the beginning of the spin?
Listen, I think the real story this week is that Donald Trump's honeymoon has come to an end. His post-election honeymoon has come to an end. We saw yesterday the Fed signal that the
I agree with that, y'all. I said, whoa, it's over. I mean, the play nice is over. You know, for a while, Democrats were not really talking much. After the election, they were licking their wounds, but now it's back to all-out war, basically.
markets are worried about his inflationary economic proposals. We're going to have the Matt Gaetz report come out any day, reminding us about his recklessness in choosing his nominees. And now we may have a government shutdown and just incredible Republican chaos in Capitol Hill. This has been an ugly few days for Donald Trump and the Republicans. And so I think they are desperately trying to figure out a path forward. And yes, of course, he's going to blame Democrats. That's what he does for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. It's not a big surprise. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, we know from history that the people that crash, that cause the government shutdown get punished by voters. And Republicans are taking enormous risks right now.
One thing that this one's going to be hard.
Y'all, I wish he would have given more detail on that. Do y'all think the average American really cares if the government shuts down? I don't think they care. I think the people who work in the government care, and I think their family members and friends might care somewhat. I don't think the average American cares at all, because they're not going to notice any difference in their everyday life. Like when you shut down the government, your internet doesn't go off, cable TV doesn't stop working, your cell phone doesn't go off, gas still is at the gas pump, all the groceries still at the grocery store, the mall's still open, you can still go to the movies, you can still go to Top Golf or whatever it's called, you can still go play putt-putt golf with your friends and your family. The highways are still open. There's absolutely no change to 95 to 99% of our lives if the government's open or closed. So I don't think Americans, I mean, I'm doing this stream to talk to y'all about it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Last time, I mean, when I say it doesn't matter, I'm saying to the quality of the average American's life, it has no impact. There will be a select subset of government workers, of their families, of people who have special conditions where, I was going to go hike at a national park and now it's closed. It'll affect people. I'm not saying nobody will be affected, but the vast majority of us will notice no difference at all, whether it's open or closed.
I will say, just factually, if you look at the sequence of events, it will be hard for Donald Trump to claim this is a Biden problem, because this was going to be, as I said earlier, like a footnote in this Christmas tale, because there was a bipartisan deal until Elon Musk started putting out tweets, and then Donald Trump weighed in as well. So this one's a little, there's more to it than this, but this raises once again the Mike Johnson problem. Right. And Playbook put it well this morning about Plan C, saying this: Mike Johnson's challenge is to find a path that can, 1, keep Trump happy, 2, placate House conservatives, 3, win the support of a substantial number of House Democrats, 4, pass muster with the Democratic-controlled Senate and White House, and 5, allow him to keep the gavel. Do you see him doing that?
Correct. I mean, just to remember, in the new Congress, he is going to be voted in as Speaker again, and he's going to need the votes. But what complicates this further is that House conservatives, traditionally their issue is they don't want a clean lifting of the debt ceiling. They've committed to not ever voting for it. Donald Trump actually hates the debt ceiling. He wants to do away with it. He thinks it's arcane and unnecessary.
Which is sometimes a progressive Democratic position.
Correct. And even more so, he doesn't want to have to raise the debt ceiling 6 months into his first term. Donald Trump still has a lot of sway with the Freedom Caucus. I think that because this is a mess of his own making, he's going to have to step in. Mike Johnson does not have the flexibility to, on his own, bring some of these folks along. And you've seen Anna Paulina Luna, a very Trumpy MAGA member of Congress, saying she probably needs to vote for this because her district expects her to. I think Donald Trump's going to have to twist some arms, and he may spend his Christmas break working on fixing the deal he blew up.
So, but that then poses something interesting, Simon. If Donald Trump jumps on a plane, gets to Washington and starts basically what he will then, we're going to do, let's just assume, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. He starts trying to break the logjam between Republicans. I just had Greg Meeks on making very clear that Democrats, they negotiated this once and they have no motivation to start heading back to the negotiating table again. Could the Democrats be looking at a worse deal than they had if they had just gone along with, I'm going to call it Plan B last night?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the reality here is that anything that passes the House, and whether they do it under the suspension rules they've been doing, which requires 2/3 of a vote, meaning they need lots of Democrats to come on board, or they go back to a 3-day period where they just get Republicans, it then has to pass a Democratic Senate, and Joe Biden has to sign it. And so Democrats have to have a seat at the table here, right, at some point. And
all right, y'all, we'll leave it at that. Miss Lily sent us a Hakeem Jeffries speech.
House Republicans.
He's on the other side. Oh crap.
House Democrats, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, and Senate Republicans reached a bipartisan agreement to fund the government, prevent a shutdown, and meet the needs of the American people. We reached a bipartisan agreement to provide disaster assistance to people who had their lives turned upside down by extreme weather events, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and wildfires all across America. We reached a bipartisan agreement to be there for farmers and families, children, seniors, working class Americans all across the country. The men and women who serve this country in uniform and are veterans. House Republicans have abandoned that bipartisan agreement that we entered into in good faith. A bill that House Republicans negotiated gave us your word that we were going to move forward together on behalf of the American people. It was a Republican drafted bill that was posted by House Republicans. And then one or two puppet masters weigh in, and the extreme MAGA Republicans decide to do the bidding of the wealthy, the well-off, the well-connected, millionaires and billionaires, not working class people all across America. The bill that is before us today is just part of an effort to shut down the government. Unless we as representatives of the American people bend to the will of just a handful of millionaires and billionaires, because the provisions in this bill, particularly as it relates to suspending the debt ceiling for 2 years, are designed to bring about a massive tax cut unpaid for wealthy donors and for wealthy corporations, for millionaires and billionaires who clearly some in this Congress are working for. And this bill is validation for it. Now, what's been interesting to me is that for decades, the Republican Party has lectured America about fiscal responsibility, about the debt and the deficit. It's always been phony. This bill proves it. The one thing we do know is that every time a Republican president comes into office, the one thing we can count on Republicans to do is to pass a massive tax cut for wealthy Americans, and in the process, stick working class Americans with the bill by raising the deficit and the debt. That's what happened in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was president. Biggest thing that he did was pass a massive tax cut for the wealthy and the well-off, paid for by working families and middle-class folks all across the country. Didn't do anything for middle-class Americans. Didn't do anything to stimulate the economy. This whole notion of trickle-down economics. come to the conclusion that trickle-down economics simply means that middle-class families, that working-class Americans may get a trickle, but they're guaranteed to stay down. That's what your economics are all about.
All right, y'all. So that was for Ms. Lely, and he is Hakeem Jeffries is a leader of the Democrats in the House. So certainly important to hear what he says. Frankly, y'all, I'm gonna be honest. I agree with not passing the bill that just gets rid of the debt ceiling, unless we as a country first have a discussion and a debate about getting rid of the debt ceiling, and we agree we want to do it. I'm not saying that I'm 100% opposed to it, but I am not terribly not in favor of just, oh yeah, let's talk about it first. We have a debt ceiling. Like, why do we have a debt ceiling? How does that help us? If we got rid of it, what would be would we just let the debt go up? Is it just whatever? So I think that getting rid of the debt ceiling, I know it's only for 2 years, but getting rid of it for those 2 years, there should be a conversation first. And then if it makes sense, you can convince people, then okay, then we'll put it in there, right? We'll see if we can get the votes. But I don't like just jamming it in there at the last moment. That is the CNN/Democrat perspective. I haven't heard the other perspective, but we did hear a few Republicans who were interviewed who seem to say the same thing. So we're just going to take that at face value. I'm going to make a prediction that the government will not be shut down, because I think that they will pass either the full bill or they'll pass a temporary funding bill to give them some more time to come to an agreement. I don't think they're going to shut down the government. All right. So I think that I think they play with our emotions. They do this frequently. Somebody here said the government had not been shut down before. That the thing is that they do this kind of theatrics. They do this frequently. This is getting your emotions riled up. It's getting you engaged. It's getting you to take a side. This benefits Donald Trump and this benefits the Democrats. Both sides win with these kinds of theatrics. It's just like in sports. When two teams are rivals and they play, one team wins, one team loses, but both teams win if they can get a lot of viewers to watch, if they can get a lot of fans to buy in, if they can sell a lot of tickets, if they can get a high rating, if they get high ratings, if they can put on a good game. The losing team wins as well because they made you watch, because they made you or they influenced you to tell your friend who doesn't watch football or basketball to, hey, this is the big game. You need to be watching this. If they can influence you to do that, then even the losing team wins the game. They don't win the actual game, but the big game, which is the money game, which is the attention game, which is the influence game, which is the sucking all of your attention toward them. That's the big game, and they win as long as they can get you thinking about it, paying attention, talking about it, tweeting about it, telling your friends and family about it, buying the jackets, buying the jerseys, buying the merchandise. They won. Even the losing team won. So the Democrats are winning. Donald Trump and the Republicans are winning because we're here talking about this. This is totally unnecessary. They know that this is unnecessary. They know that this is unnecessary. It's unnecessary to pass the bill, but it is necessary to extract from us attention and energy for their benefit. So I'm not demonizing them. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. This is the game they're in. They're in the game of extracting from the people. And we are being extracted from. So I'm not demonizing them for doing it. This is what politicians do. This is their job. This is their game. So they're playing their game. And, they're winning either way. Nishi says, I would like to be the one to win. Forget the rest of them. Well, Nishi, you have to define what winning means to you. That's very important for everybody who's on here. Everybody who's on here, you have to define what winning means to you in your own life. So, y'all, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Do hit the like button, y'all. We'll see what's gonna happen. Tomorrow morning we will know. Hit the like button. Do subscribe if you're not subscribed. I want to thank everybody who's rocks with us every day. Rufio, you're here. Lou, see you. Jason Hodges, see you a lot. Nishi, Avery, Miss Lily. I don't know if I saw Andre today. Brooklyn's here, in here all the time. Bruce, if I didn't say Bruce already. If you are new here, if you don't show up every day, y'all, we here every day. We're trying to grow this thing out. We'll be here talking, debating, and you know I'll be on my rants. So if I didn't say your name, I appreciate you nonetheless. So y'all, let me put my X in the chat one more time. If y'all come up with something that you want me to talk about, do hit me up with a message on X. If anything big happens, I'll come back live later. If not, we will see each other tomorrow morning at about 8:15 to 8:30. Just depends. You know, y'all, I'll be on my walk, be getting my walk on my walking pad. So I got to get that done before I can hop on here with y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow morning, y'all. Thank you a lot. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.